Hey, yo, it's Guido coming at you with a Tactics Talk. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate your support of the channel as always. I've got a new submission from Fishrokk. This is a first-time submission for replay analysis from him. He's in his T-34-1, Tier 7 Chinese medium tank. He's middle tier on Abbey in a 357 with 3 artillery on both sides. That is going to be a bit tricky on this map. As this is his first time sending in a replay, he gave me a few notes here. He says it's his first solo game in a very, very long time. I don't know, you have to put it down there on the YouTube comments, man, if you mean that you've been doing organized or you've just been away from the game that long. Says he's learned a few things. Never used to build a snapshot, and he thinks he did that pretty well. We'll take a look at that. He says this represents more than double his damage in this tank. So while it was a good job for this tank, he thought they ended up losing. So we'll take a look at it and see what we can do. The last thing he says is, rip me up because this is a loss, but I felt up to the end where the conclusion became self-evident. I did well for my skill level. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. Positioning wise, he's going to head over to the 1-2 line. Not a bad decision. Looks like really light over on the 9 line, so he's going to have to keep an eye on that right off the bat. They lose their Type 64 immediately, not good, and the enemy takes the middle Abbey. So what do we have overall? Just take a quick look at it, everybody out there, and kind of see the situation that you have developing early on, and consider the thoughts you may have to have in your nugget as this thing develops, and if the enemy takes advantage of the deployment, or if Fishrokk's team takes advantage of theirs. So we're going to head up here. Excuse me. It does not have any camo on that. I don't know. That's a debrief item, Fishrokk. Come on, put some camo. A lot of free players don't do it. Hey, but you can buy the silver camo, right? So we're going to come up here on the 1-2 line, and we're going to start kind of poking and prodding. Down goes the Cromwell. Now we're down 2-0. We've got a guard. He's behind a couple rocks. If you take a look at the mini-map, you're going to note you're probably not going to get a shot on that guy. His loadout is 20 AP, 11 APCR, and 3 HE. Seems reasonable. I don't see any food or such on there. He is carrying a small, goodness gracious, a small fire extinguisher. Come on, man. Put the large one on. I can go into why that is actually more of a cost benefit than running the small one. But I've said it a million times. If anybody wants to know, I'll type it in down below if you have the question. But in fact, it is better to run the automatic. So we're going to come up here. What happens here, Fishrokk, is, and this happens a couple times, it's kind of interesting. You know that he took, or they, the red, took the Abbey right there. Also realize when you cross things like this, you're probably going to get spotted by these dudes who are poking and prodding. And coming over here and looking for this, while it might be a good idea to clear the A43 out of there, you would like to do that if you could and had the shot. Unfortunately, you got yourself spotted crossing over, and he is in a pretty good spot. This is interesting because depending on the tank up there and how he's playing, you're actually at a disadvantage down here in these bushes, especially, obviously, if you're spotted. Once you go dark, then you've got an advantage if he pops out and you can take the shot first. Also, this fight, just let's take a look at how this fight develops, because this is, your team is going to win or lose right here, period, dot. That's where everybody is. So you either clear this flank out and win, and then you're able to flex around and do your thing, or you just lose wholesale right here to what turns out to be kind of a smaller force. Let's see what happens. I guess I already gave it away, didn't I? I already sold the ranch on that one. But since we're taking a look at this in a debrief style and considering what we could have done better or what happened, just consider that this was where everything was happening for this match. And you're sort of futzing around with this A43. That's not a bad idea. If you could have killed him, that's fine. Except for maybe waiting. Careful right here, because I think you're actually unspotted from the bush. You're not even in it, and you're sort of putting your back end around. If this guard got really brave, you could come around, or these guys just push your 2 tier 8s right there. But that's most of your power right there. And we're going to kind of mess around. We've been at this for about 2.5 minutes. We don't have any damage. And we're just sort of looking around in a bush. Meanwhile, the main fight, the most important fight's been going on for a while. And your IS-3 is down. He just gets hit again. There's artillery firing in everywhere. Now, a lot of times the thought here with middle or bottom tier mediums is I'm going to work around the edges of the fight. And that can be very difficult in channelized maps like this, especially this particular part of the map. You got a bunch of guys back here doing I don't know what. What that means is you've got to try to find those shots. And while I can see that you're doing that, you're sort of moving around a bit, I think you're being a little bit timid on this one. The IS-3 is about to die up there. And you haven't really, I guess you've shot once, maybe twice. Well, here comes A-44. So we changed the fight a little bit, and we say, look, I'm going to try to help the guys up on the high part of the road. Come down here, and unfortunately you find an A-44, but that's another tier 7 tank, right? So you even match, more or less. He's got a bunch of hit points gone. He hits hard, but so do you. So let's see what happens right here. So we finally sort of get that sorted out, and we're like, all right, let's come down here. Already hits. He's stunned. He shoots. And he's stunned, and he shoots, and oh my gosh, that took a long time. And no shot. So the A-44 has a quite long reload. When he's stunned, it's going to be even worse. As soon as he shot and was hit by the artillery, you should have side-scraped out there, aimed in as best as you could, because I think he's tracked also, and put a shot either into his turret or ideally into that great big tumor of a hatch that thing has on it. Alternatively, you could have moved up, but I think he has a better kind of shot on you. He's rear mounted on his turret, so he has a better time side-scraping backwards, so that may have been not a great idea getting here. Plus, he has some friends. Back here is the Churchill. If that Churchill 7 just drives up and starts pew-pewing you won't last very long. So probably a good idea here. That was a more aggressive move. You also had this dead armor right here if you wanted to try to press and get in on this guy. You have had your hit points evened out because of that hit, but if you'd have gone out there and taken those 240, or what is your alpha on this thing? 250 off of that guy, maybe with a couple high shots, he's high pens. Something, high damage rolls, he's gone. In any event, you had the lead on him and potentially could have taken a further lead, but we just let that slide. And this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, a bit timid. The maneuver, how you fight your tank, what you're thinking, I think is all right and correct, but I think you're just a few potatoes behind in execution, and you let a couple things go that you could have got out there on. So he's stunned again. I'd have just gone in there and seen what I could do. Holy cow, I don't even know. I'm assuming in your client when you were playing that showed something to that. I only saw a very slim highlight, but nice job. Took a little pick at him, and now it's time to press in there. And unfortunately, now the Churchill's up, and maybe you were pressing in to get him. That may have been a little over-aggressive. I know I'm talking out both sides of my face right here. I'm saying be aggressive, then I'm saying don't be over-aggressive. I think we could have had that A-44 out of there and then started working on this Churchill 7. And your super Pershing should just be driving in and wrecking this guy. This is nice right here as far as how you're picking your shots. That was a nice job. A little angle. I don't know what this... I guess that Cromwell's looking at your super or something. Nope, he actually bounced off you. Nicely done. And this is exactly what you need to be doing because no one else is doing it. You've got to clear this lower road out so you can start changing. Now, it's been a while since I've talked about the strategic piece of this match. And we knew that the east side was really weak. And clearly it has failed. Although the Hellcat lived, he ran away and fell back. You have a T-35-2 up there. You've only killed 3 of them. It's 3-6. Your cap is now threatened. Your main force has basically been beaten up by a smaller force down on the 1-2. But all is not lost right now. We've just got to make good decisions. This Churchill's got to go away, and this Cromwell's got to go away. And now start thinking about, put yourself back in your tank at this position. Look at the map with an eye towards winning. Remember you said on the note that you sent to me, you said when it became obvious what was going to happen. So when was it obvious what was going to happen? Because right now my plan would be get rid of these guys as best I can, minimize hit point loss, and then I would, and I'll let you think about that for a minute, what would you do? Remember, it's an eye to win. I always want to win. I do have videos where I say, you know what, I knew it was going to happen, and I went hunting this, or I went and did this. I got it, that happens, but let's just, for the sake of argument on this one, we're going to continue to try to win this one. Now, that M44's got your number. Not a great spot. The Crusader SP is telling you to fall back, I think because he probably wants to get shots if they come around the corner. It was not going to be easy for you to fall back right there in any event. And now you just got to get rid of these guys. There you go, and ouch, that hurt. And the M44 somehow does not kill you. He only stuns you. That was a close one. 3 hit points. He's probably raging right now. Overall, it just took a really long time for you to clear these guys out. If this super Pershing, has he gone back around at the top? Yeah, if any of these guys had done anything, I typically don't blame things on team. I guess I do, but it's always an eye towards the player doing better. And that Cromwell was looking at the wrong person. That was nicely done there. But sometimes you just have to be honest and call it like it is. The team, I don't know. The Super Pershing played extremely poorly. He should have eaten these guys alive. There's still a Super, a KV-2, U, and there's one T-29. So this is that point where, just a bit earlier, I was saying, all right, think about what you're doing and what would you do from that point. We come up here, and we don't get the T-29. This is another example, mirror image from the other side, where coming up, you sort of allowed him to see you. Once I saw him rocking back and forth, I had to cut left along the edge here and try to keep me in this rock between him and I, so that I didn't get spotted, because you're really worried about these 3 Julios, M44, M12, and GW. Just a little splash and you're done. Obviously the T-29 can take you on too. More than likely he's looking at these guys. I think you probably, had you hugged this side, you might have been able to come around there and kill him and then run away and try to get away from the splash. What you choose to do is you get seen and then you go already safe, which I understand. Also worried about somebody in the middle, because there's a VK-28-1 last seen over there. And I'm assuming this is the point where you said, all right, this is a done deal, it's a loss, I'm just going to go try to shoot artillery. And that's the whole diatribe I had earlier about looking at the deployment, considering how the battle's going to go on your flank, and then what do you do. And what I usually tell people is, whatever you do, go back. Whatever it is you do, go back. Your cap is obviously threatened. You've got a T-25-2/2 or something up on there. Maybe the IKV or the 2801, unknown. And we're looking like we're just kind of heading in and trying to go after the artillery. And I would tell you, this is not necessarily a loss even now. Even now. With the Super Pershing, if you can manage to kill the 29, which is artillery just took another chunk out of him. Had you gone back, helped spot for the artillery, kill off a couple of guys on the cap, then maybe you'd have been able to handle these 3 later on. You get in there, but we're just kind of driving in looking for a hit point. And boom. Oh, look at that. The T-34 Mod 1. Unbelievable. Is that a bot? Yes. So, basically you were killed by a bot with an auto shoot script. Or somebody happened to load in right there. Let me sidebar this one just a little bit. This is one of the reasons, and it actually applies to what I was just talking about. This is one of the reasons why you don't push into the cap when you have a situation like this game going on. Go back and try to clean the guys who are at your cap. They're usually beat up. There's usually not very many of them. And there will always be, more than likely, clowns camping in the back or bots sitting on the cap. And basically, you have brought these guys into play by driving up here and getting spotted. Maybe you can do a little stealth bush or a little hiding behind already safe spots, kill some of these guys off who were up by your cap, and it wasn't the 25-2, was it? It was somebody else on the cap, because here he is, and there's still somebody capping. But that's one of the many reasons why you don't go to the enemy cap in a situation like this, and you almost always should go back. The other thing about almost always going back is you can get more hit points, usually back by your own cap, because there are almost always good defensive spots back there. And like I said, they're wounded guys. So go back there, light them for your artillery, try to kill off some near deads, and then turn around and try to figure out how to crack the nut of campers sitting on their own cap. These guys are out of the game other than the artillery, which can fire everywhere. But you definitely put them in the game by getting lit up by the guy hanging out on the cap right there. So what would I say overall? Initial position was good. I would say that your maneuvering and thought process is pretty much where it needs to be, it's just a little bit slow, and maybe that's the you don't play solo thing being taking into account right there, or being taken into account right there. And then the late game decision, I understand you probably looked at it and went, well, it's a loss anyway, I'm just going to go try to kill an artillery. But if you're going to do that, why not just get up on this hill right here and try to spot those guys? Probably would have been hard. Looks like they're all bushed up and whatnot. But you may have seen this dude and known right away that driving up there wasn't a great idea. All right. that was sad. Sorry about that. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you, hopefully. Thanks for sending it in, man. I do appreciate it. Keep supporting the channel, everybody, and we will see you.